the Spanish, with all that possession in the first half, their main striker, Stevie, Oyarzabal, when they went to the drinks break in the middle of the first half, had not touched the ball once. Wow. That's incredible. That tells you they're going from side to side to side. They're poking it around. Because had you told me the Cape Verde striker hadn't touched the ball, I'd have been okay with that. I'd have said, yeah, well, I'm kind of expecting that. But I'm not expecting my main striker, whether you agree he should be in that team or not, and he certainly has led the line for Spain in the last year or two, hadn't got a touch of the ball, going to the drinks break. I'd have been going nuts if that was me. I'd have been embarrassed. But that typified the Spanish performance. There was no prodding and guile. It was somebody else take the chance, somebody else take the chance. And it allowed Cape Verde to get, as Stevie said, in a great defensive position. They made it easy for them. So it's given the Spanish coach, I think, a lot of food for thought. He had to bring two players on he didn't want to, but particularly Lamine Yamal, who we don't know about the hamstring, how it will stand up. That's a worry. And B, Ferran Torres, who plays through the middle when he plays for Barcelona playing wide, does he put him in for Oyarzabal and bring Dani Olmo in and take an extra midfielder out to give them better balance and a better threat? So he's got some thinking to do. I mean, they'll get through the group, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But he's got some thinking to do in terms of the balance of that team in the final third, because it just did not look right.
Well, Cape Verde have shown everybody else how to play against this Spanish team. And that is, you just give them the wide areas. Because if Williams and Yamal are not fit, then what you do is you leave Cucurella with it and you're empty. And that was their problem today. They probably had more of the ball, those two players, than anybody else on the field. Because Cape Verde just blocked up the middle and so all the space was in the wide areas. And so you don't want your fullbacks being your playmakers. And that's pretty much what happened today.
They definitely had more of the ball than Oyarzabal did in the first 30 minutes, as Craig's just demonstrated there, telling us the stats on that one. You have to go way back to find when that had happened before. What does that say to you?
Listen, if I'm Llorente, I'm thinking, hold on a minute. Let's look at this in perspective. When your centre forward doesn't touch the ball in the penalty box, that's a problem. But at the same time, how are you supposed to get the ball to your centre forward when you've probably got 12, 14, 15 players in and around there, and the only space is wide? So,
but he didn't touch it in any. He didn't touch it.
No, I know, but
in any part of the field. So you've got. Well, I know it's difficult, but you can't. I mean,
if I'm Llorente, I'm saying this is a different kettle of fish. This is not going to happen again, in my opinion. Because I don't think you can sit down rationally and say, well, we need to do this, we need that. Because you're not going to play against this again, I don't believe, in the rest of the tournament. I think you have to push this one aside and say, this is one of those games. And unfortunately, as I said before, the two full-backs end up being your playmakers. I kind of feel for Oyarzabal. At the same time, we're talking about Spain, we're talking about a team that's supposed to be favourites to win it. You do expect somebody to make a difference.
That's not really his fault that he hasn't, unless he stood there like a stooge and not moved.
It's tough on him.
It's more about Spain. And the other question going forward is, what's the mindset going into the next two games? Does he feel, the coach, that he has to play Lamine Yamal? Because if he does, and he plays him, and the mental side of Lamine Yamal is, I've trained and I'm fit, but I haven't had that 100% 30, 40, 50-yard sprint. And only when that happens do you know where you are with a hamstring. And if something was to happen, the coach is going to get battered.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one for him because he doesn't want any more dodgy results. But does he risk Lamine Yamal, or does he give him another couple of weeks through this group stage to make sure he's 100% for the knockout? It's a difficult decision because not even the physios and the club doctors can tell you that a hamstring or a muscle injury is 100%.
So before the game, Stevie, Luis de la Fuente has said he's 100% ready to go, but not ready for the full 90 minutes. So obviously we saw him in this game having to come on.
Yep.
But the feeling has been in Spain that they wanted to rest him as much as possible throughout these group stages. Yep. What does he do in the next game?
I don't think he should start him. I don't believe he should start Nico Williams either. Because I think, in general, they have got more talent than anybody else in this group, regardless of where the two of them play. And if you want to win the World Cup, you need to have your best players at their best at the end of the tournament. You know, they are going to get through this group.
So what did they do to avoid happening what happened today? Why won't that happen again?
Well, because the teams they're playing against are not going to play the way Cape Verde play.
Saudi Arabia next, and then Uruguay after that. Uruguay?
You're not going to see another game like that. No. Uruguay are not going to sit as deep as they are. They're not going to have 5 at the back, 4 in the middle, and 1 up front. I mean, it's not going to be that. I think you have to trust your players. The manager has to trust the players he has in his squad. You pick a squad of 26 for a reason, because you need to use them all because of the conditions, because of the amount of games, because of injuries, because of suspensions. You have to trust your boys. You can't, after one game and a bad result and a shock result against Cape Verde, throw everything and gamble and start playing Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams right off the bat, just because you get a surprise.
That would be panic, wouldn't it?
That would, absolutely. So he has to trust the players that he brought with him. That's what he has to do in the next game.
And you want to, of course, you want to win your opening game. That would be stupid to say otherwise, but they haven't. So you have to use. I think you use that a bit like Argentina used it against Saudi Arabia. Nobody thought they were going to go on to win the World Cup, but they used it. They used it as a motivation to be better. They also used it to change personnel, and that team changed and it evolved. And I think Spain have to use this as not so much rush into Lamine Yamal, but to remind the players that everybody's talking about them as favourites, but it's not just going to be a walk in the park. And that kind of performance that they put in at that pace and that tempo is just not going to cut the mustard. It's not going to be good enough. And I think a coach can use that without screaming and shouting at players, just by getting them down and saying, listen, okay, that's gone, but that's not going to win us the World Cup. So, you know, we need to be better than that. We need to do this. We need to play quicker. All that sort of stuff. We need to play forward faster, more crosses, all that sort of stuff. And Spain can use this as a leverage to say, OK, that's our bad performance, that's our sloppy performance, out the way. Not again. And I think, you know, the players will totally understand that.